Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is the B Block, or second section of our weekly show. I'm Alaina Pinto. The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML, is the oldest lobbyist group for change in cannabis laws, and it was formed in 1970 thanks to a $5,000 grant from Hugh Hefner's Playboy Foundation. Now, with 135 chapters around the country, NORML has led the way across the country and the world of changing cannabis laws. This weekend in Virginia, that state's chapter held a 2-day conference in Richmond to galvanize once again the effort to bring an adult use market to that Commonwealth. You might remember that last year, the legislature passed a bill that landed on their governor's desk only to be vetoed by Glenn Youngkin. Now, with that governor in his final year, the movement begins again. Joe Parsons was on hand at the conference, and here's his report.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection, and this is the Virginia Cannabis Report on Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Today I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I'm very proud to be at the NORML 2025 Cannabis Conference. This conference is sponsored by Rise Cannabis and, of course, the Virginia chapter of NORML. The purpose of this conference is to not only bring education and resources to the state of Virginia, but to talk about the upcoming 119th Congress and what the plans are to get legalization actually rolling, not just here in Virginia, but across the nation. The keynote speaker today was, of course, Morgan Fox.
The fact that the grassroots folks are really going hard on Republican lobbying is a great sign. We're starting to see a little bit of movement. We're starting to see more supportive statements from politicians. We're starting to see a lot more media coverage in Indiana, which is fantastic. And I think that actually helps drive a lot of the conversation and helps to motivate lawmakers. If they start seeing this coming up in the news over and over again, and especially if they're seeing members of NORML chapters or other advocates speaking about this actively, and then the people that are being quoted in these stories are going and talking to lawmakers, connecting the name with the face, and actually hearing from people, as opposed to it just being a news blur, we start to see real action.
Honored to be speaking with Tamara Netzel, and I want to hear about this amazing book that she's written. So Tamara, what can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. So this is my second book, and it's named Humans of Cannabis in a Renaissance of Hope. And that title really means, we're talking about Governor Youngkin, okay? And if you will, some of you may know that he has been known to say very little about cannabis, but what he has said, he has claimed that he has never met anybody who consumes cannabis and they're successful. So this book really is the answer to Governor Youngkin saying that. There's 51 stories in here of successful people who consume cannabis.
Awesome.
And they're all successful. They're entrepreneurs, patients, everyday people that come to this plant, and the diverse people come.
It has been an awesome day here at the 2025 Virginia NORML Cannabis Conference. We look forward to the future, and we hope that eventually, not only here in Virginia, but the rest of the country will eventually seek coast-to-coast decriminalization, not rescheduling. So, keep hope alive, and until next time, everyone, stay lifted.
Colorado and Washington State are the two oldest legal cannabis markets in the country. Now in Colorado, there has been a major change in one of the state's oldest trade associations. The Marijuana Industry Group has ceased operations after 15 years of advocacy in the Mountain High state. Our Colorado correspondent is Xavier Jaillet, and he is the chair of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, and his report takes a look at what's next in his state.
I'm Xavier Jaillet, chairman of the Colorado chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce and a non-attorney consultant with the McDonald Hopkins law firm. And here's what's happening in Colorado cannabis this week. On January 22nd, lawmakers introduced to the Senate SB 25076. Senate Bill 076 seeks to limit sales in both the emerging psychedelic industry in Colorado, but also the existing adult use cannabis industry. Now on the cannabis side, SB 076 First proposes to limit the sale of THC products containing 10% or more THC to adults over the age of 26. Similarly, SB 076 seeks to reduce or eliminate the use of flavored inhalable products, looking specifically at things like joints and vape pens, alleging that the flavoring in these products makes them more attractive to children. And finally, SB 076 proposes maximizing or limiting the maximum serving size of inhalable products to 500 milligrams. Now, this would include flour in any form, right? Loose flour, joints, but also things like vape pens. And as you might imagine, the Colorado cannabis industry is vehemently opposed to the propositions in SB 076, mainly pointing to the fact that voters initially allowed the adult use industry to be legalized here in Colorado under the premise that cannabis should truly be regulated like alcohol. And alcohol, of course, is only available to adults over the age of 21, and there's no concerns about branding, flavoring, and things like that, and alcohol being attractive to children. Now, the final component of SB 076 that's relevant to cannabis is that it seeks to open up Colorado's social equity program, really focused on providing opportunities to underrepresented and minority populations that want to participate in cannabis, opening that to all businesses, not just cannabis, which is, of course, ironic considering the program is entirely funded by revenue from marijuana sales here in Colorado. So it'll be interesting to see how this bill progresses in the Senate. I don't personally expect it to make it very far, but it is a sign that, here, 12 years after adult use sales first started in Colorado, there are still challenges to those laws, in that there are still proponents looking to limit the amount of sales that are able to be made. That's it for the Colorado Cannabis Report this week. I'm Xavier Jaillet, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Insurance regulations on cannabis are just one of the requirements for any grow facility in the industry to start. Another regulation that restricts marketing for the industry is advertising. And while this show encourages ads from cannabis businesses, the messaging has to be more informational than a call to action. And now in Arizona, they are changing the rules again. Here's Karen Black with that story.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. A Phoenix company has reason to celebrate, millions of them, and did so in iconic fashion. BBK Tobacco and Foods, which distributes raw rolling papers, was recently awarded $8.7 million for theft of its intellectual property and copyright infringement. The case centered on counterfeit rolling papers manufactured in India that copied the legendary brand. To celebrate the victory, John Kesselman, founder and creator of RAW, literally rolled up the lawsuit and smoked it. He stated, and I quote, "This victory is about more than money. It's about protecting what RAW stands for: quality, authenticity, and respect for our customers," end quote. A new House bill is fanning the flames of a long-standing feud between Arizona's cannabis and hemp industries. The measure aims to crack down on cannabis ads, especially those that might catch kids' attention. It's supported by the Arizona Dispensaries Association. However, both the Hemp Industry Trade Association and Arizona NORML oppose it. At issue is the bill's definition of marijuana, which includes hemp, and would severely restrict advertising of hemp-derived products, including but not limited to CBD. HEDA Executive Director Sully Sullivan claims the bill torpedoes the hemp industry, while NORML's AJ Jacobs went so far as to say the bill's primary function is to allow dispensaries to monopolize the market. In the other chamber, a Senate bill aims to fix, rather than exacerbate, a problem. It proposes to correct the word may to shall in a 2021 law so that the Arizona Biomedical Research Center can finally issue grants from the Medical Marijuana Fund for FDA-approved cannabis research. The three-letter word has held up millions for 3 years and delayed Arizona scientists from researching cannabis as a potential treatment for autism, epilepsy, PTSD, and pain. That's all for this week's Arizona Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
That'll do it for the B Block this week. But in our final section, we go back to the Midwest. You might remember we introduced you to our newest correspondent from Oklahoma last week. Her name is Kimmy Cannabis, and we'll have her report next as Cannabis Coast to Coast continues after this.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weegits filtration system. What? The Weegits.com, Weegits, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weegits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.